Coming up on today's show, with the first wave of free agency dying down, the second wave coming, we're going to look ahead to the NFL draft as team needs have been updated and the big draft gurus out there have dropped some new mock drafts. So we're going to round up those mock draft results and see who they have the Falcons selecting. So we're going to start it off with looking back to free agency for a quick second here to kind of refresh our memories on who the Falcons have signed so far and how that impacts what they need to do in the draft. So, free agent signings by the Atlanta Falcons to this point: Jessie Bates, David Onyemata, Kaden Elliss, Kaleb McGary, Taylor Heinicke, Mack Hollins, Mike Hughes, by the way, signed yesterday. Shout out to Jack Sperry. He filled in for myself, and producer Rolly and I were unavailable. I understand there was some discrepancy over the depth chart issue. Just be a little easy on the guy. He was very nice filling in when he didn't have to, so sorry about any confusion on that part. Tae Davis, a linebacker, came over from Cleveland. So those are the free agent moves, along with the first one: Lorenzo Carter, Cornell Armstrong, Bradley Pinion, and Keith Smith. So those are the 12 free agent signings by the Falcons so far. Don't think I missed any. So good additions. But Atlanta definitely does need more, and that's perfectly fine. I don't think any team should feel that after free agency they are a finished product and they don't even need to use the NFL draft. That's also a great resource to fill out the rest of your roster. So if you loved what the Falcons did in free agency, landing one of the best safeties in Jessie Bates, adding some pass rushers, but not enough, I think, with Kaden Elliss and Lorenzo Carter and David Onyemata, hit that thumbs up button to like today's video. So the team needs for Atlanta, I could just write the word edge in 4 different ways, right? Defensive end, pass rusher, edge. They have to still find a way to get to the quarterback. They have been the worst pass rushing team in football, arguably ever. I mean, they never really get consistent pass rush year in and year out. I'm going to put cornerback second. The reason being is Casey Hayward is up in the age column, entering the last year of his deal. GMs love to think ahead and go, okay, who's on the last year of their contract right now that's a starter that I could draft their replacement this year so that when they're in their second season, they're ready to go. Wide receiver for sure. Right now it's just Drake London and Mack Hollins. Sorry, Frank Darby, but you're not going to cut it as a wide receiver 3 probably. And then we're going to go with left guard as well to kind of shore up the offensive line. Not sure if Elijah Wilkinson's going to come back or not. So let's start things off by looking at Mel Kiper's recent mock draft. He dropped his 3rd mock draft, I believe. Well, we've had some moves since then and some free agency acquisitions. Carolina went C.J. Stroud. Texans go Bryce Young. Colts trade up to get Will Levis. Cardinals find Will Anderson at 4. That's maybe my favorite pick of this draft. Anthony Richardson to Seattle at 5. The Lions pick up Jalen Carter. And then the Raiders get Christian Gonzalez. And then with the Falcons at number 8, drum roll please, Devon Witherspoon, the cornerback from Illinois. So that is who Mel Kiper had the Falcons selecting at 8. Let's break down this pick. Why does this make sense for Atlanta? I think the Falcons need another cornerback with Casey Hayward getting up in the age column and also just not going to probably be around for much longer, given this is the last year of his contract. So when you look at that and then you just look at best player available, an opportunity to pair potentially 2 Pro Bowl cornerbacks in A.J. Terrell and Devon Witherspoon, if you can't get after the quarterback, at least make it impossible for them to throw to an open receiver. Here's what the Falcons' cornerback room looks like right now with some updates in there. A.J. Terrell, Casey Hayward, Darren Hall, Mike Hughes. Yeah, it's not the worst CB room, and it's not like they are desperately in need of one because you have 2 starting outside corners. But I think if you're thinking forward and not just for 2023, a future pairing of A.J. Terrell and Devon Witherspoon, well, that's one fun duo to think about. Right? Last season in Illinois, he put up 41 tackles, 3 interceptions, 14 pass breakups. He got serious time as a freshman in Urbana-Champaign. He has gotten better every single season. And listen, if you play football at Illinois and you are getting draft recognition, you're doing something right because scouts, they usually don't go to Fighting Illini games. So he definitely is jumping off the map a little bit. How did PFF like him last season for the Fighting Illini? Overall grade, 92. Guys, that is ridiculous for PFF to give out. They do not give 90-plus grades very easily. Coverage grade, 92.5. Tackling, 72.9. You know what? That's perfectly fine. That's what NFL coaches are there for, to bring up the slow parts of their game, like tackling. You can teach that. Coverage, just having those right instincts and speed, that's tough to teach. No touchdowns allowed either. So do you like the Devon Witherspoon mock draft selection? Let me know. Yes or no. We're going to look at some other players and some other mock drafts in just a second. But while you're getting your votes down in the comments section, make sure to subscribe because we have been growing like crazy over the last month or so. And that's a huge testament to what producer Nick Roloff is doing behind the scenes to get you guys as much Falcons content as possible. So reward Nikki back there for the big ups in this channel by hitting that sub button. All right, now Mel Kiper himself said this on drafting Witherspoon. I thought about Will McDonald IV from Iowa State and Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa, but Witherspoon's ability and coverage might be tough to pass up for a defense that struggled last season. Atlanta could add a great corner to put on their other side of A.J. Terrell. Witherspoon didn't work out at the Combine because of a minor injury, so he's going to run in front of NFL teams April 5th. That's their pro day. That's going to be crucial so we can see if his testing numbers line up with his fantastic 2022 season when he allowed 3.3 yards per attempt and 0 touchdowns as the primary defender in coverage according to ESPN's game charting. Witherspoon, in my opinion, would be a fine pick. But if Tyree Wilson is there at 8, you got to take him, right? I think that Mel Kiper was pretty spot on with, hey, it'd be nice to have another edge rusher like Will McDonald, like Lucas Van Ness, to add to that defensive line. But if best player available is on the board, and that's the number one guy on your board, I'll never be upset with a team that isn't one piece away from just adding overall talent that they think is a better football player than maybe a spot where they do need some help at. Now, speaking of A.J. Terrell, we've got some awesome Falcons jerseys waiting for you guys. When you go to chatsports.com/Terrell, you don't love the defense, that's fine. Drake London on offense, he's pretty fun to watch too. We got his jersey as well. So go to chatsports.com/London, find a Drake London jersey or an A.J. Terrell jersey. The link for both of those, by the way, is in the comments and the description of today's show. Now, we've got another mock draft for the people. Daniel Jeremiah from NFL.com dropped his mock draft. Similar to Kiper, he went Young, Stroud, then no trade, Anderson to Arizona. The Colts pick Anthony Richardson, and Seattle winds up going Jalen Carter, which then prompts Detroit to draft Devon Witherspoon. Tyree Wilson, unfortunately, went just before the Falcons at 7, so Atlanta at 8. They go with another great corner, Christian Gonzalez, the Texas native who was with the Oregon Ducks last year. One of the best corners. Him and Devon Witherspoon, in my opinion, are the top 2 corners in this draft. And I don't like to say sure thing, right? Can't miss prospect, but he's as close as it gets, okay? Here's what Daniel Jeremiah wrote about when it came to drafting Gonzalez for the Falcons. The Falcons ranked 31st in third down defense last season. Gonzalez would team up with A.J. Terrell to give Atlanta one of the biggest and most athletic cornerback duos in the league. Christian Gonzalez last year for the Ducks, 50 tackles, 4 interceptions, 7 pass breakups. What's ridiculous about Gonzalez is the speed and size. You don't often find quick, twitchy, 6'2" corners, but that's what Christian Gonzalez is. His PFF grades from last year, not as good as Witherspoon, but really consistent. Right there at 83. Don't look at that as a B-. Look at that as a really nice grade from PFF. Gave up 3 touchdowns, so maybe he doesn't fare just as well as Witherspoon in that department, but stats don't always translate to the pros. Now, if you know any combine nerds out there that drool and need to change their pants over the RAS, here's a great one. Green is not for Oregon. Green is good, and he's got a lot of it. It is basically off the charts. 9.94 overall raw athletic score. that is unheard of. That is not something you stumble across every draft. So if Christian Gonzalez is on the board, similar to Devon Witherspoon, that might not be the biggest need Atlanta has, but you don't want to pass on someone you think might be a Pro Bowl, maybe even an all-pro cornerback for the next couple of years. So you team that up with A.J. Terrell. Yeah, I'm a little upset that you don't get an edge rusher, which you so desperately need. But if Christian Gonzalez or Devon Witherspoon is just a better overall player than Will McDonald or whatever edge rushers are still left on the board, I'm not going to pitch a fit over it. So pick a cornerback for me, though, right? Of the two that were mocked to Atlanta today, who would you rather have, Witherspoon or Gonzalez? Very curious what people are going to say. So don't shy away from the comment section. Let your voice be heard. Something to monitor as well. We found it interesting that the two most plugged-in guys, I think you could add, Dane Brugler and some other guys, but Kiper and Jeremiah are the big J's when it comes to mock drafts, and they both have been going corner in the first round. This is a good time to remind yourself of Kiper and them. They're not just sitting in their room throwing shit at the wall. They are spending time talking to GMs, talking to sources, talking to people in Flowery Branch to go, what position do you think Atlanta would like in the first round? Because they are picking so early. They only have so many names on their board they have to look at before they start getting crossed off by teams selecting ahead of them. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head of when it gets close to April and people start talking, what are the Falcons going to do? Just go, it is kind of a peculiar that they both had them going corner. I don't know if that's an absolute coincidence. The draft is a crapshoot. Crazy stuff happens. Nothing is a guarantee. Just kind of, file that away and just keep that for later. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in, making us a part of your day. We're going to give you guys some more videos throughout the week on the latest Falcons news and rumors.